So section 3.5. These next two sections, 3.5 and 3.6, are going to kind of be like just some small little last tidbits about statements and things like that. So so yeah, they're not going to be very long. Just some extra things to know. So in section 3.5, the big thing that you're going to be learning about in this one is this little symbol right here. Those three bars stacked on top of each other. That means equivalent. So they want to know, are these two statements equivalent? Okay. So basically, they're saying, are they saying the same thing? In order to be equivalent, you have to run a truth table. And at the end of the truth table, you want to make sure that these two have answers for the same true statements in the same order. They got to be correspondingly matching. Okay. And I'm going to show you what that means here in a second. But yeah, this is all based on truth tables. And in the end, every answer must match 100% in order. Okay. So it's kind of like you're doing two problems in one. We're going to work with this side right here first. So you know that you got two statements. You already know the regular setup for this. This isn't anything new. So it's true, true, false, false. And then you got true, false, true, false. Okay? So remember, we got Mr. Armstrong's order of operations. So the first thing we deal with is parentheses. Do we have any parentheses? Nope. So then we move to the next piece, which is, do we have any negations? And absolutely, we have a negation of P right here. So that's going to be my next column. We're going to negate P. So remember, negations, all that does is change the sign from true to false or false to true. So true becomes false, true becomes false, false becomes true, false becomes true. Okay? And we don't have any ands or ors, but we do have the conditional to take care of, and that will end this side. So we're going to take care of the conditional. Now remember, conditionals, this is the one that you got to be careful of, because with conditionals, it's all about who is the antecedent, who is the consequent. Because remember, conditionals are only false when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Okay? So in here, the negate P, that's the antecedent. The Q is the consequent. So I'm looking at it from the antecedent column to the consequent column. Okay? Remember, this is only false when the antecedent is true, the consequent is false. So we got false to true, that's true. False to false, that's true. True to true, that's true. And true to false, that's a false statement. So this is the column we're going to check with this one. As long as this end result ends up being true, 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 false, then they are equivalent. Okay? And they have to be in this order. It's very, very specific that they are in this order. I cannot have true, false, true, true. Even though it has three trues and one false, it's not the same order. It has to match 100%. Okay? So we're going to do this side in blue. Well, we already have the negate P, so that's done. What we're worried about is the conditional. Okay? And this time, the Q is the antecedent, and the negate P is the consequent. Okay? So the moment this column messes up and doesn't match this, I'm done. They are not equivalent. Okay? So, right here, antecedent is true, consequent is false. That's false. And right there, I'm done. No more working on this because this does not match. So, are these equivalent? No. Not equivalent. And that's the answer. Because this doesn't match 100%. If you would have done the rest of this, you would have gotten true, true, true. Okay? But the problem is is that even though I have 3 trues, 1 false, it's not in the correct order. To be equivalent, it would have had to be true, 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 false. Okay? That's how you check equivalent. All right? So let me give you one more. Try this one. See what you think. And go. Okay. So even though this looks crazy, it's not. You only have 2 statements. So you're dealing with a P and Q. So true, true, false, false. It's not writing for me. There we go. True, false, true, false. Okay? So the first thing is, let's deal with parentheses. So we definitely have parentheses right here. So we're going to take care of the negate Q inside that first. Negate Q. So negate, just change it from false to true, false to true. Then we'll take care of the conditional, where P is the antecedent, negate Q is the consequent. So P, arrow, negate Q. All right, so true to false, that's false. True to true is true. False to false is true. False to true is true. So there's that first parenthesis. Now all we're going to do for the second parenthesis, where we already got the negate Q, basically we're just going to reverse it. So the negate Q is the antecedent, and the P is the consequent. Negate Q, arrow, P. Okay. So we're going from false to true. That's true. True to true. That's true. False to false. That's true. True to false. There's the false case. All right. Last thing we're going to deal with on this side is the and. So we're going to take these 2 columns that we just made, and we're going to perform and. Now remember, and is only true when both are true. Only true when both are true. Okay? So we've got false true, that's false. We've got true true, that's true. True true, that's true. True false, that's false. So this column is what we want to check with our purple column. Okay? We already have the negate Q. We already have P. We just got to do the biconditional. Remember, biconditional is only true when they both share the same symbol, the same truth value. Okay? So we're looking at P and negate Q. So I've got true, false. That's false. So far, so good. They match. I've got true, true. That's true. So far, so good. They match. I've got false, false. That's true. So again, they match. And I've got true, false, which is false. And since these 2 columns match 100%, they are equivalent. There you go. So you're going to run into some questions that say, hey, are these equivalent? And that's all you do. Okay? Last but not least, they will also throw them at you in words. All you need to do is turn them back into symbols. Okay? And then, of course, you'll be, and it's multiple choice, and it'll say select the one that's equivalent. All right? So if I turn these back into symbols, here's the original statement. I saw the original King Kong. So I'm going to call that P. Or, so that's a V, the 2005 version. So you saw the 2005 version. That's Q. So we want to know which statement down below here is the same as P, V, Q. We want to know who's equivalent to that. Is it A, B, C, or D? Okay. So let's turn these into symbols, and then we'll go from there. So I see an if, that means there's a then, and it's actually right here. They just didn't write it in. I don't know what I'm writing the word 10 there for. So I did not see King Kong. So that is negate P, because P is about King Kong. Now you got to keep this straight. I saw the 2005 version. So that is Q. And then, of course, the then represents the arrow. So A represents negate P, arrow, Q. All right. I saw both King Kong and the 2000 version. So this is P and Q. So that's B, P, and Q. Oh, there's an if. That means there's a then. And here it is. Then. They just didn't write it in. I saw the original King Kong. So that's P. I did not see the 2005 version. So that'd be negate Q. So C is P, arrow, negate Q. And last but not least, if, that means there's a then, and it's right in here. So that's the arrow. I saw the 2005 version. That's Q. I did not see the original. So that's negate P. So D is Q, arrow, negate P. And all you're going to do is run a truth table on this to see which one of those gives you the matching truth table. So go ahead, pause the video, and give it a shot. Okay. So hopefully you ran your truth tables pretty quick on this. Shouldn't have been too terribly difficult. And the answer that works on this one would have been A. This is the truth table that would have matched. Okay. I didn't run the truth table because I know that you guys can do that. Okay. But A was going to be the truth table that matches the original statement. So that's the one that is equivalent. Okay. If you want to see this truth table, please reach out to me. Let me know. Again, and the way that I would attack this is I would figure out what this is first, and then I would run it piece by piece. I would check this guy first. If it worked, then I'm done. Circle your answer and move on. If it didn't work, then I would try the next guy. Do know that sometimes they like to switch this up and they like to say which statement below is not equivalent. So you'd be looking for the one with the truth table that didn't match the original guy. Okay? And so just so you know, if you're looking for the truth table on this one, the original PVQ that you would have been looking for would have been for ORs. Remember that they are only false when both are false. So it would have been true, 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 false that you would have been trying to match up. And A is the only one that would have matched that up. Okay? All right. Last but not least in this section, they're going to say, hey, let's talk about some conditionals again, because there are other ways that we can write conditionals. Okay? So here I've given you a conditional P, arrow, Q. Okay? But there are other ways that we can write these out. Okay? And they're called the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. Okay? So there are three other types of conditional statements. All right? So P arrow Q, and again, this doesn't have to be P, this doesn't have to be Q, it could be R arrow S, or negate P arrow negate Q. Okay, something along those lines. The original conditional does not have to just be P and Q. All right. So the converse, what the converse does is it takes the P and the Q and it switches their spots. The Q becomes the antecedent and the P becomes the consequent. That's a converse. So for instance, um, back in 3-1, when I had those two statements from my children, I love mama, I like watching YouTube videos. Okay? So a conditional statement would be, if I love mama, then I like watching YouTube videos. Converse would be, if I like watching YouTube videos, then I love mama. All we did was just flip those two statements into the antecedent and condition, or not conditional, consequent part. Just flip them around. That's all the converse does. The inverse negates this, negates the original. Okay? There's the full word contrapositive. So if I love mama, then I like watching YouTube videos. The inverse would be, if I do not love mama, then I do not like watching YouTube videos. Okay? All we do is negate it. Now, please know if one of these statements is already negated, then down here in the inverse, you would unnegate it. Okay? So if it said, I did not like watching YouTube videos, down here it would be, I liked watching YouTube videos. Okay? And finally, the contrapositive is like we take the inverse and the converse, put them together, and make one statement. Okay? So we take the inverse and we just switch things around. So remember, in this one, the conditional was, if I love mama, then I like watching YouTube videos. The contrapositive would be, if I do not like watching YouTube videos, then I do not love mama. That's all this is. And again, in your assignment, all they're going to do is they're going to give you a statement like these, and they're going to say, okay, give me the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. All you have to do is look through the multiple choice and give me those. Okay, so let me highlight some problems real quick and I'll have you do it. And that right there will end 3.5. So, like number 21, try 19. And try number 24. So again, if you want to talk about some of these other ones, feel free to drop in a Zoom session, send me some emails. We can talk about this. But all I want you to do is give me the converse, give me the inverse, and give me the contrapositive. And that's it. Go ahead and do it. Okay. So, number 19. If I'm in Chicago, then I'm in Illinois. So the converse would be, if I'm in Illinois, then I'm in Chicago. The inverse would be, if I am not in Chicago, then I am not in Illinois. The contrapositive would be, if I am not in Illinois, then I am not in Chicago. And there you go. That's it. You would just be looking for those in a multiple choice answer. Number 21. So the real statement is, if the stereo is playing, then I cannot hear you. So the converse would be, if I cannot hear you, then the stereo is playing. The inverse would be, if the stereo is not playing, then I can hear you. Listen to that again. The inverse is, if the stereo is not playing, then I can hear you. Notice I had to unnegate that side right there. Okay? And the contrapositive would be, if I can hear you, then the stereo is not playing. There you go. Number 24. Here's the statement. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Okay, remember there is a then after that comma right there. So the converse would be, if you must acquit, then it doesn't fit. The inverse would be, if it does fit, then you must not acquit. And the contrapositive would be, if you must not acquit, then it does fit. See, you're just rearranging, okay? And that's all there is in 3.5, okay? So reach out to me if you got any questions. But there you go. Thanks for stopping by.